Today, just wanted to talk about Columbus Day. Columbus Day is a celebrated holiday with parades, they have Columbus Day sales, they have parties in commemoration of the man who discovered America, discovered it. So these are the doctrines that were taught to us from our youth. And we all remember singing that song about Columbus sailed the ocean blue. They have taught us that he was a hero to be exalted. Nothing could be farther from the truth. As John chapter 8 verse 32 says, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." In Isaiah chapter 30 verse number 1, it says, "Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin." God gave us holidays or holy days to celebrate, but yet and still we insist on celebrating these other holidays that are basically not to be celebrated. In Hosea 4 and 6 it says that my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge, and this is what affects us as a people. Just a little background information, I guess. Columbus was an Italian mariner, a Christian of the Roman Catholic faith who read the Bible profusely. His obsession of reading the scriptures led him to believe two truths. In Isaiah 40 and 22, it says, "It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth," which in fact told Columbus that the earth was in fact round. This was unheard of during those times because all the scholars of the day thought that the earth was flat. And if you would ride off, you would fall off the edge of it. The other truth that he would know was from the book of the Second Esdras. Now, the Bible of Columbus's time was much like this one. It had 80 books instead of 66. 14 books would be taken out of the Bible because it held some truths that the powers that be didn't really want us to know. Book of Second Esdras, chapter 13, verse number 40. It says, "Now those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasar, the king of Assyria, led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, and go forth into a further country, where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High had showed them signs for them and stars, and still held the flood, till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come." Now, according to the Jewish Encyclopedia, Arsareth is the name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses. And it says that Columbus identified what we call America with this land. So Columbus believed that the voyage to this new world Arzareth had already been done by the northern tribes, and that they in fact inhabited this new world. Now from the book The Lost Tribes in the Promised Land by Richard Sanders, from chapter 8 and page 92, it says, "We do not know much concerning Columbus's crew of about 90 men aboard 3 ships, but at least one of them was an Israelite whose presence as such was not merely accidental. This was Luis del Torres, a convert of possibly only that year, who had once held a position with the governor of Murcia. He was said to have known Hebrew, Aramaic, and some Arabic, and had been brought along by Columbus specifically as an interpreter." So Columbus would meet with King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain to pitch his idea. And the lure of gold and spices and treasures will cause them to sponsor this voyage. So Columbus would sail for the New World, but he took along with him soldiers called conquistadors, along with his Hebrew interpreter, and he would land upon the island of what he called Hispaniola. This is the island today known as Santo Domingo. While he would spend time with all the Caribbean islands, he would never come to the place today we know as America. So much for him discovering it. With his soldiers and so-called holy men, he would try to instill their religious values on the indigenous people that were already there. They tried to force them to accept this new religion. The people were already serving the one true God, the Holy One of Israel. But they would not serve another God. Therefore, the Israelite leaders would be put to death, and the others would be placed on ships and sold into slavery. So over 100 years, this was 1492, so over 100 years before the so-called blacks would dominate the slave market, the so-called Hispanics would already be slaves. It would also be mass murderers in the name of Columbus's God. Now, this is all straight out of Scripture. We read Deuteronomy 28, beginning of verse 45, it says, "Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for all the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. For he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. He shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land, until thou be destroyed. Which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustest, throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee." And then verse 68, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies, for bondmen and buy women, and no man shall buy you. This is straight out of the scripture. So, when Columbus landed on the island today known as Puerto Rico, he declared, "What a rich port," which is what Puerto Rico means. He did that because of the treasures, the pearls that were in the water. They would make the inhabitants dive in to get the pearls. If they came up empty-handed, they would force them back down into the water, and many would die as a result of this. Puerto Rico was previously called Barica, which is a Hebrew word meaning land of the brave lords. So eventually they would take the land of Puerto Rico because it was rich. Had things like sugar cane, that was the backbone of the rum industry or the liquor industry, which would end up being a real big thing. So just imagine being in your house and someone coming in and taking it over. This basically is what happened to the islands, all the islands, and the Americas. So we go to in Lamentations. It says, "Remember, O Lord, what has come upon us. Consider and behold our reproach. Our inheritance is turned to strangers, our houses to aliens. We are orphans and fatherless. Our mothers are as widows. We have drunken our water for money. Our wood is sold unto us. Our necks are under persecution. We labor and have no rest. We have given the hand to the Egyptians and to the Assyrians to be satisfied with bread. Our fathers have sinned and are not, and we have borne their iniquities. Servants have ruled over us. There is none that doth deliver us out of their hand. We get our bread with the peril of our lives because of the sword of the wilderness. Our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine. They ravished the women in Zion and the maids in the cities of Judah. The princes are hanged up by their hand. The faces of the elders were not honored. They took the young men to grind, and the children fell under the wood. The elders have ceased from the gate, and the young men from their music. The joy of our heart has ceased, and our dance is turned into mourning. The crown is fallen from our head. Woe unto us that we have sinned. For this our heart is faint. For these things our eyes are dim. Because of the mountain of Zion, which is desolate, the foxes walk upon it. Thou, O Lord, remaineth forever, thy throne from generation to generation. Wherefore dost thou forget us forever, and forsake us so long time? Turn thou us unto thee, O Lord, and we shall be turned. Renew our days as of old. But thou hast utterly rejected us. Thou art very wroth against us. The bottom line, I guess, is that we celebrate Columbus Day, but it is a farce. Something that we definitely should not be doing. We have been taught to celebrate a murderer. And as it says in Mark 7 and 9, it says, "And he said unto them, Full well, ye reject the commandment of God, that ye may keep your own traditions." Israel, this is a tradition that we definitely have to get rid of. The Hispanics, so-called Hispanics, the so-called blacks, all ye that are children of Israel, we need to reject these traditions of men. Shalom.